That's an interesting thing, that we are told both that we have put on the new man and that we must then put on the new man. And it does sound paradoxical, and it is a paradox. But a paradox is not necessarily a contradiction. A paradox is a seeming contradiction. And in Paul's letters, we often call this paradox the paradox of the indicative and the imperative, that Paul can say the same thing as a statement, an indicative statement, speaking about the gospel fact, and as a command, as something that he calls us to, as an imperative, as how we should live out the gospel. And one thing to know about the indicative and the imperative is that the indicative, the fact, or the imperative rather, is always rooted in the indicative. So Paul always calls us to put on the new man in light of the fact that we have put on the new man. And he does this often in the book of Colossians. Some of the clearest statements of the indicative and the imperative are in Colossians. For example, he says, "You died with Christ," in Colossians 3:2. And then he'll go on just a few verses later and he'll say, "Put to death all these former things, all these earthly things of your former life." And I think the reason that we see this is because God's not done with us yet. That he has fully accomplished our salvation in Christ. We've died with him. We've been raised with him. We've put off the old man. We've put on the new man. We have new life in Christ. And yet, it's not done yet. We're waiting for Christ to be revealed. Paul says in Colossians, our life is hidden with Christ in God above, and we're waiting for that to be revealed on the last day. So I think the reason that Paul says it that way is that even though our salvation has been fully accomplished, there are still things in our lives now that we need to live out as we continue to follow the Lord, looking for the day when it's all said and done. Because on that day, there'll be no, in a sense, imperative to put on the new man or to put to death the deeds of the flesh, because we'll be just like him, right? We'll be glorified with him. But until that day, we're called every day to continue to live out the gospel, to continue to put to death the deeds of the flesh, to continue to set our mind on things above and put on the new life that we have in Christ.